What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Chase of Sports News. I am your host, Chase Coburn, here with you today. Not at the normal setup, but the NBA playoffs are not going to wait for me to get back to my normal setup. My NBA playoff predictions, breaking down the bracket, which matchups you want to watch for, and of course, my official NBA championship prediction. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. Please subscribe, follow, share, do what you need to do to keep up with all the content and spread the content across all the sports fandom and sports media world. We would love for you guys to check out all the fun stuff we're doing. Follow me across all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Just search up my name, Chase Coburn. You guys will find that pretty easily. Really excited to break down the ins and outs of this bracket here today. And we may as well start off sharing my NBA pick'em here. And I have already made a bracket, but I'll just go through it with you guys for the fun of the game. We're going to start in the West. We're going to go round by round, West, East, and then go back and forth and officially give you guys my NBA championship prediction. And I do want to say before we start off, I do have a pretty good track record predicting the champion heading into the postseason. If you want to look at my track record, you're not going to be able to find it because it's unlisted videos. But 2020, I said the Lakers. 21, I said the Bucks. 22, I said the Celtics. They ended up losing to the Warriors in the finals. And then 23, I said the Nuggets. So past 2 years have been a little bit more shaky with picks that weren't terrible, but didn't get the job done. This year, we're going to hope to run it back and officially predict the NBA finals of the NBA championship prediction. Again, starting off with the West, then go into the East. OKC, either Golden State or Phoenix. I would expect Golden State to win, but I guess time will tell. Either way, I don't expect the series to go more than 5 games. I would pick the Thunder. I'll go at 5 because if it is a Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, I could see Curry just going for 41 game and that alone being enough to propel the Warriors to a victory at home, something along those lines. But OKC's been too dominant a team, and they're a team that has won 20 of their past 21 games when you don't include the final 2 where they were resting starters ahead of the playoffs. They just feel like they're fully loaded. They're finally healthy and recharged and ready and poised for another playoff run as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and the number 1 team in the NBA during the regular season. Lakers Rockets is certainly going to be an interesting matchup. You know, what I've heard from a lot of people is that, LeBron just needs to have a legendary series. And LeBron's going to have to step up because with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves out, LeBron is the Lakers at this point. But I even look at that Dallas Mavericks game, toward the final portion of the season, and LeBron went for 30 points, 12 rebounds, something along those lines. Maybe I'm misreading the stats exactly, but it was something along those lines, a dominant performance. And they still lost at a Dallas team that really isn't trying to win, that isn't a playoff team, wasn't even a play-in team. And so I question whether or not they're going to have enough collectively as a group without Luka and Austin Reeves for at least the first 4 games, maybe the first 5 games, possibly more, to keep up with the Houston Rockets team that I think has been dominant. I am going to pick Houston. I'm going to pick them in 5 games. And I really do think this is a Rockets team that if they could start to figure out some of their nagging issues in the fourth quarter, I think they could be a team that could go on and kind of I say a Cinderella, maybe a shocking run to the Western Conference Finals, to the NBA Finals, because again, that's really been their one hindrance. What they've done as a group and their body of work and their point differential and the way that roster is constructed tells me they can make a run. They just have to fix a few things. And I'm curious to see whether they do or whether they don't. Either way, I got them over an injured Lakers team. Denver, Minnesota. This one's interesting because Minnesota always plays up the competition in the postseason. They did so against Denver a few years ago. Back-to-back seasons now for Minnesota in the conference finals. And I think Anthony Edwards is going to have a monster series. I'm not worried about Ant at all. I just don't know if they're going to have what it takes to beat a Denver team that has won 12 straight games, that has the best offense in the NBA, possibly the best player in the NBA. Not going to debate that here, but one of the best, if not the best player in the world. I just think it's a really tall order for a Minnesota team that I'm not quite sure is good enough offensively or defensively to really propel themselves to consecutive victories. I do have the series going 6 games. I think they match up pretty well. And again, they always overachieve in the postseason. But I actually think the one thing will be free throws as well. I want to put that out there because Minnesota, they allow a lot of kind of opponent free throws per game. I think over 25 a night, which is one of the most in the NBA, one of the worst marks in the NBA. Denver, they're among the leaders in getting to the line and efficiency once they get to the charity stripe as well. So I think that could play kind of a factor in the series. Either way, it is Denver over Minnesota. And then Spurs, Trailblazers, another very, very interesting matchup. Shout out to the Portland Trailblazers and Denny Avdia and Donovan Clingan. I'm a Wizards fan. I'm a UConn fan. A lot of guys over there that I want to cheer for. But I'm going to go with Donovan Clingan's former UConn teammate in that 2024 national championship team and the San Antonio Spurs to win in 5 games. I just think you're looking at a Portland team that, sure, hypothetically, you can get Denny to start scoring and creating that offense. You can get Donovan Clingan to anchor down the paint and maybe limit Victor Wembanyama. I just think the Spurs have too much. It can attack you in too many different ways. And I don't know if Portland has the outside shot makers consistently from beyond the arc to really exploit some of the weaknesses in the San Antonio perimeter defense. I like San Antonio, the Spurs, to move on to the next round. Going here round by round, then going to the Eastern Conference now. Not Portland, Detroit versus either Charlotte or Orlando. If this is Orlando, it's Detroit in 5, maybe Detroit in 4. I don't think the Magic are a great team. I really don't. I think they're going to fire the coach. I think they're just going to hit a complete reset in the offseason. This season did not go the way they wanted it to go. If it is Charlotte, if you guys saw my recent NBA Hot Takes video, you would know that I'm really, really high on this Hornets team. Not knowing that now, I am going to pick the Pistons in 6 games. If it's Charlotte, I think it could go 7. I still think if it is Charlotte, I would pick the Pistons. You don't win 60 games accidentally. I still think the Hornets are going to need some playoff experience under their belt. The Pistons did have that experience last year in that loss to the Knicks, where I think they took it to 6 games. I just don't know if the Hornets are going to have what it takes, but Charlotte could easily and most definitely be a team to beat Detroit if some things go their way there in the first round. Again, they got to get in first, which is why I'm hesitant to pick them without even knowing they're going to be there. But either way, I'm going to have Detroit moving on into the second round. If it's Charlotte, by just by the hair of their chinny chin, and if it's Orlando, it'll be a cakewalk series for Detroit. Cleveland, Toronto, an interesting series. I've seen a lot of people wanting to pick Toronto, and I think a lot of people misread my take about Cleveland going into the playoffs. I think that James Harden will let down the Cavs eventually. I don't think it's going to be early. I like the Cavs here. I really do. I like the Cavs in 5, to be honest with you. I don't really like this Toronto team. They're a team that was 24-6 against teams worse than 500, 8 games below 500 against teams that had a winning record this year. I don't think that's a great track record heading into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be able to score inside on Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. And at that point, it's going to come down to, can Toronto make the outside threes? Because that's the way to beat Cleveland. They don't have a great 3-point defense. I just don't know if I can trust Brandon Ingram or Scotty Barnes or RJ Barrett to just go nuclear for the series, which I think that's what they'll need to do to beat a team like Cleveland with so many different playmakers. I have the Cavs moving on. I think the Cavs could make some noise in the playoffs. Again, they're not going to win the title. I'll spoil that for you now if you see my recent take. But I think they can make some noise and certainly win a first-round series. Knicks, Hawks here in the Eastern Conference. This is where I'm going with an upset. I'm picking Atlanta in 7 games here, and that may come as controversial, but I think the Hawks match up really well, and I think they have what it takes to take down this Knicks team. And I think they're going to be able to expose those poor defenders for New York and their 2 best players who are elite offensively, and Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. And I just think they have the formula to win, which is having the length and quickness and really being able to speed up the tempo. The Knicks want to play a defensive game. They want to slowly and methodically just bully you. I don't think they're going to be able to do that against a really quick and lengthy Atlanta team. I'm looking at guys like Dyson Daniels, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Johnson, and Onyeka Okongwu. They have a variety of pieces to throw at New York, at that offense. It has been inconsistent this year. And I will say this, if the Hawks are able to steal game 1 or game 2, New York hasn't been very great on the road this year. So I think if the Hawks are able to steal a win early in the series, I think that's going to propel them to a series victory. I'm going with an upset, a team that's been incredible since the All-Star break. Give me Atlanta over New York once again, like we saw a few years ago back in 2021. The Hawks moving on into the second round. And then the final first-round matchup here, Celtics, 76ers. I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to pick Celtics. I may change that to Celtics in 4, actually. I don't think it's going to be a very, very good series. Sixers haven't been good without Joel Embiid. They're not going to have Joel Embiid for the series, most likely. Even if they did have Joel Embiid, Boston's really been Philadelphia's kryptonite in the playoffs during this process era with Embiid and co at the helm. I like Boston easily, not even close. Going back up here to the West, this is where I think things get very, very interesting in the second round. I am going to pick OKC over Houston, but there are a few reasons why I may want to pick the Rockets. Number one, every NBA champion since the Raptors, starting with the Raptors in 2019, hasn't made it back past the second round of the playoffs the year after. No NBA champion has done that since Toronto. So that's Toronto. Then you look at the Lakers and the Bucks, and you can keep going down the list. No one's ever made it back to the conference finals the next season in their quest to repeat. And I like what Houston is able to do. I think you could get Kevin Durant on fire. I still think he's an incredible ISO scorer. They've been a team that has been able to dominate teams over the course of the season. Their big issue has been blowing leads, and they're inability to close out games down the stretch. They've been what a lot of people want to call the worst clutch team in the NBA, and there is some merit to that claim, and that is why I am going to go with Oklahoma City because look, OKC, they're 5-6 in 3-point games, better than they were last year actually. And they're 5-0 in overtime. You look at Houston, they're 5-9 in 3-point games, 1-7 in overtime. I think there is an element of luck there that makes me think that that will change in the playoffs. There also is an element of the Rockets do not know how to close games. They didn't know how to do it last year. They don't know how to do it this year. I think that's going to nip them in the butt here. I like the Oklahoma City Thunder to move on. I think it'll take 6 games to do it, maybe 7. But unless Houston can fix those issues down the stretch of games, I am going to pick Oklahoma City, a team that, again, has dealt with so many injuries and yet has been so dominant so consistently. Here in the West semis, Denver, San Antonio. A lot of people think this is the NBA championship, possibly for some. I know these are two of the 4 teams that many people really want to throw in as a real possible premier championship contender. I'm so torn because I mentioned on my takes video how San Antonio, I'm not going to go away from them just because of their age, because they don't play like a team that has an experience. They have great defenders. They have an incredible head coach. They have a lot of depth. They don't have a true weakness. Like, they don't play like a real inexperienced young team that you'd want to go against or that you would want to, not pick and bet against come postseason time. I'm going to pick Denver here, though, and I'm not doing it because the Spurs are inexperienced. I just think it's a Denver team that I know Wemby hasn't been available for some of them, but they've looked really, really good against San Antonio. And I think defensively, I've heard all the concerns for Denver, but they're also a team that can shoot the 3 ball and can defend the 3 ball really well. They're actually first in the NBA, at plus 4.6% in 3-point differential. One of the best marks, or the best mark in the NBA, more than double the second place team in Charlotte. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think if you're able to dominate in this kind of an era from the 3-point line, you can have that type of success. I think it's going to go 7 games, but I like Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets to go back to the conference finals and get a rematch with Oklahoma City like they had last year. Here in the Eastern Conference semis, again, I'm telling you, I'm not betting against Cleveland to not make a run. I'm betting against them, I say betting metaphorically, not to go on and win an NBA championship. I actually like Cleveland in this matchup in the semis, and I'm taking them in 6 games, and I'm locking it in right now because, look, this Cleveland team, I don't think can win a championship, but I think they match up really, really well with Detroit. I will stand by the fact that I think the way to beat the Pistons is to shut down Cade Cunningham and force everybody else to beat you. Bingo. That is the strategy for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that's a strategy they executed on really, really well during the regular season. 4 games against Cade and the Pistons. He averaged 18.5 points per game, 34% field goal shooting, 17% from 3-point range. They split the season series, and the most recent victory for Detroit coming in on February 27th was where the Cavs didn't have Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, and they still took the game to overtime. They have a variety of defenders to throw at him. And again, I really view this Pistons team as the 2019 Bucks, where I think I am buying their stock long term. I think they're going to be great. I think they can figure it out and eventually become a premier championship contender. But some of their inconsistencies and their inability to, I think, thrive when their star player is limited will be a hindrance. I understand that they had a great record without Cade. Playing a playoff basketball team with a really, really strong defense this time of year is a little bit different. I think this is where Detroit will be exposed, and I think the Cavs go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then Atlanta and Boston. I feel really bad to do this, but yeah, Atlanta, congratulations on your run. They have a bright future as well, as they really shifted gears in their franchise from the Trae Young era to the, I guess, non-Trae Young era, the Jalen Johnson era. They have a lot of great players over there. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Johnson, CJ McCollum, Onyeka Okongwu. They have a lot of depth, a lot of great wings. Again, you're buying their stock long-term, but I'm just not buying it in this series where I don't think they'll have enough to contain Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the perimeter. Boston, a relatively easy path to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then here in the West Finals, Thunder, Nuggets, absolute cinema. And this is the series you want to see. It's the 2 most recent NBA MVPs meeting up in the conference finals. And I think what's interesting is that Denver always really, they play up against Oklahoma City. Even last year, they didn't have a great team. David Adelman was a head coach for a few weeks after they fired Mike Malone just before the playoffs. Michael Porter Jr. wasn't making his shots. Russell Westbrook was a liability at times. The team wasn't great. They were injury prone all year. They just weren't a team that was going to win a championship. And yet they took a really, really good Thunder team, a Thunder team that was better than this year's team, a 68-win Thunder team last year. They took that group to 7 games And I think the Thunder are worse this year. I think the Nuggets are better this year. I'm not quite sure Oklahoma City has an answer, for a guy like Nikola Jokic. I don't think anybody has an answer for Jokic, but I think Jokic is going to be able to dominate in this series. And I think Denver is going to be able to get the upper hand. I like the Nuggets in 6 here. And again, I think they have the best offense in the NBA. And defensively, I've heard the concerns. But again, if you can shoot the 3 ball and defend the 3-point ball, like that's really all you need, right? I don't think I'm not as much worried about their interior defense, to be honest with you, against Oklahoma City. I think this is where, again, a defending champion, not in the NBA Finals, I guess that streak will continue, and Denver will go to the NBA Finals for the second time in 4 seasons as they look to get their second ring with Nikola Jokic. And then here in the East Finals, I kept telling you, I keep saying Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland. I'm not betting against them yet, But the premise of my take was that at some point, James Harden will show you his true colors in the postseason. And sure enough, right here in the Eastern Conference Finals, James Harden is going to show his true colors. And I think Boston's going to have what it takes to limit Spida, Donovan Mitchell, and force James Harden to beat you. And Harden is going to falter once again. I'm not quite sure that Boston's going to have much of an answer inside for Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, but I don't really fear them. I wouldn't fear them if I'm Boston. Offensively, they've never really lived up to standards when their production has been required offensively. I just think this is a Boston team that has what it takes across the board. They can shoot the 3 against the poor 3-point defense in Cleveland. I like Boston in 6 games, the Celtics back to the NBA Finals, and then we get the NBA Finals matchup that for years we've expected. The 2023 NBA champions versus the 2024 NBA champions. A lot of people predicted this in 23 and in 24 and in 25, and we haven't gotten it yet. And it feels almost inevitable that in a season like this, we will have this matchup. Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown and the C's. Can you ask for anything more than this? An absolute cinema in the NBA Finals. But I'm rolling with the Boston Celtics to go on and win an NBA title. And look, this Boston team, I predicted them. I'm going to be honest with you. I predicted them. I'm pretty sure if you go back to the predictions, either to barely make the playoffs or miss the playoffs. I thought Jason Tatum was going to be almost like a Tyrese Halliburton type. Take him off the team. They're going to be nothing. But Jaylen Brown has stepped up. And Peyton Pritchard has stepped up. And guys like Baylor Shireman have stepped up. And you bring in guys like Nikola Vucevic. And they've just had a variety of players. Nimi Keta is a perfect example of someone that exceeded my expectations. That was my biggest concern. Nimi Keta starting at center. Who is Nimi Keta? That was my question going into the season. How is he going to be a starting center on a contending team? But they have exceeded expectations. And for that, you need to look to Joe Mazzulla. I think Joe Mazzulla is the best coach in this playoff field. He may not have the resume only having one NBA championship, but I think he's the best coach in this field. I think he squeezes all the juice possible out of his teams. And there's really no other way to describe this Boston team except for the fact that I think they're satisfying. They play such a style of basketball that is so dominant and so consistent and so dependable. And last year's Celtics team, who I picked before the playoffs to go and win an NBA title, it felt like most people did that because it felt like, yeah, you're going to pick the reigning champions because of the Boston Celtics. We ignored the fact that the entire year they lived and died by the 3-point ball. And when the 3-point ball was working, they were dominant. But when the shots weren't falling against the Knicks, they didn't have a response. They did not have a counter to get past New York. This team can shoot the 3-point ball, but they're not as dependent on it. And unlike most teams in the NBA, Boston has a non-dependency of just 1 or 2 stars. Detroit, what are they without Cade? Denver, what are they without Jokic? A lot of teams are like that. With Boston, Jason Tatum was unavailable for most of the season. And even when Jaylen Brown was off the floor, meaning both Tatum and Brown were off the floor, and they had one of the best net ratings in the NBA, even compared to teams when they had their star players on the floor. I just think they play cohesively. They don't have a true weakness. I'm rolling with the C's. I think it's Boston's time to shine. Once again, they're going to make what's now going to be, again, an every other year appearance in the NBA Finals, their 3rd finals appearance in 5 years, and capture their 2nd title in this stretch and raise banner number 19 at the TD Garden. C's in 6. Boston gets it done once again as the 2026 NBA champions. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this edition of Chase's Sports News. Let me know what you guys think, and please stay tuned for a ton of postseason coverage coming up. We're going to be collaborating with some people, working with some people, and please be sure to subscribe. We got MLB coverage, NFL draft coverage, a lot of that coming this week. You're not going to want to miss that. And please, again, click the link. It'll be somewhere on the description or on the screen somewhere throughout the video to see my biggest NBA hot takes going into the playoffs, where I go even deeper into some of the breakdowns that I had on some of these individual teams. So excited for the NBA postseason. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Signing off, I'm your host, Chase Coburn, saying so long from Chase's Sports News.